But an extraordinary 10-minute revelation last night by David Letterman here at the Ed Sullivan Theater. He told his audience he had allegedly been the victim of attempted blackmail. I have two things to say about this. First of all, we've done over 6,000 shows. On October 1st, 1993, something happened. On David Letterman's show that CBS tried to bury forever. Comedian walked on stage and delivered his set to a laughing audience. The producers had approved every single joke beforehand. But when the show aired that night, his entire 7-minute routine had vanished. It was the first time in CBS history they completely cut a comedian's full performance after taping. The comic got a devastating phone call later that evening. What he heard would haunt him until his death just 5 months later. David Michael Letterman was born on April 12, 1947 at Methodist Hospital in Indianapolis. His father ran a small flower shop and his mother worked as a church secretary. They lived in Broad Ripple, a quiet neighborhood not far from the roar of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. As a kid, he loved model race cars. He collected them with the kind of passion that made everything else fade into the background. He shared a house with 2 sisters. And though the Letterman household was solidly middle class, it was a place shaped by routine humor and quiet resilience. But when Dave was only 11, the world around him tilted. His father suffered a massive heart attack. Somehow he survived. But that moment planted a fear in young Dave that never really left him. It was the first time he truly felt how fragile everything could be. Even as he tried to focus on school or toys or cartoons, that fear hovered in the background. The sense that his father might disappear at any moment became part of him. And when Harry died of a second heart attack in 1973 at the age of 57, it confirmed what Dave had feared all along. His father never got to see him on television, never heard the roar of a studio audience cheering for his son. But that early experience, that dance with death and survival, gave Letterman's humor something deeper beneath the laughs. Even as a boy, he found escape in voices. While other kids were outside playing, Dave spent hours pretending he was on the radio. He mimicked announcers. He invented characters. He even tried out voices inspired by Paul Dixon, a host from a Cincinnati-based TV show that aired in Indianapolis. Dixon would become his biggest influence. Years later, Dave would say that watching him on television made something click. That's really what I want to do. He said it in 1969, just after college. But the truth was he had been preparing for it since he was a kid. By the time he entered Broad Ripple High School in the early 60s, something began to shift. He went from being quiet to becoming that kid who could make everyone laugh. His classmates noticed it, especially Jeff Ashosky, who remembered how Dave would pass out scripts during recess and direct parodies, once even doing a Winnie the Pooh spoof with his friends in speech class. When the teacher randomly called on him to give a talk, Dave ran out, bought blank index cards, and came back, pretending they were notes. He improvised the whole speech. It was about juggling and he made it all up on the spot. He got an A. What people saw that day wasn't just a class clown. It was a performer learning to trust his instincts. But before any of the lights and cameras, there was Atlas Supermarket. That's where Dave got his first job, working as a stock boy in his teens. Most people would just restock shelves, but Dave turned the place into his personal comedy lab. He played pranks on customers and tried out material on anyone who'd listen. It wasn't about being rude. It was about learning how far he could push a joke before it stopped being funny. Then came college. In 1965, he enrolled at Ball State University and immediately joined the student-run radio station WBST. It was just 10 watts, barely enough to cover the campus. But for Dave, it was heaven. He got fired not long after, mostly because he mocked the classical music he was supposed to take seriously. That didn't stop him. He helped launch another station on campus, WGO AM 570. There, he went even further. He played awful songs on purpose. He made up fake news stories. He laughed when others were confused. Everything he did hinted at the absurdist style that would later define him. When he donated money in 1986 to fund a news station, The call letters WCRD stood for Cardinal Radio. Dave. He never forgot where it all started. After graduating in 1969 with a degree in telecommunications, he got his first real job on television at WLWI-TV in Indianapolis. He was the weatherman, but not the kind you're used to. Dave didn't just deliver the forecast, he turned it into a performance. In one broadcast, he warned viewers about hail, the size of canned hams. Another time, he congratulated a tropical storm for leveling up to a hurricane. He made up towns that didn't exist and reported weather there. Anyway, he joked that the Indiana-Ohio state border had disappeared in a scandal because the satellite map left it out. What he was really doing was testing how much absurdity an audience could accept without blinking. And he was learning they would accept a lot as long as it made them laugh. Back at Ball State, there had been one person who helped keep him grounded. Her name was Michelle Cook. She was his college sweetheart, and their relationship lasted well beyond graduation. They eventually married and stayed together for 7 years. It was a quiet love story in the background of a man building something loud. Michelle was there while Dave struggled to find direction. She was there when he said he didn't know what he wanted to do. She was there when he first dreamed of hosting a show and when he began stringing together those early TV jobs that nobody remembers. But the marriage, like many first loves, couldn't last forever. As Dave moved closer to Los Angeles in 1975 and chased bigger dreams, their paths began to split. Though much of what he wrote in college never survived, one thing was clear. Letterman had already figured out how to write like himself. Whether it was fake radio news, or absurd classical music commentary, or low-budget children's shows in Indianapolis where he used plastic dinosaurs to recreate Godzilla scenes. Everything was starting to sound like Dave. He didn't wait to become a star before acting like one. His work at Ball State, his local TV segments, even his comedy experiments at the grocery store, they all blurred together into one long rehearsal for something bigger. In